welcome. This is Don Blackard with Changing Times. His faith for the Lord, that he loved his family very much, and that he was an American that would do anything for our country. And so we're so honored to have him as our featured song that we're opening up and closing to. My co-host today, Lynn Morris, is on vacation. It is his wife's birthday, and so he is a good husband and took her down to a sunnier, warmer, beautiful state to have a great week on vacation. So, to say a little bit about Lynn, I don't think people see how hard Lynn works. I mean, he could run circles around people half his age. He just has incredible work ethic. And I know when Acts Ministry came to him and asked him to be part of this show, his heart was yes, to do what he could to bring a voice to these real issues that are going on. And I just can't say enough good stuff about Lynn and Janet Morris. They are just the finest people. Drop a comment on this show if you want to wish Janet a happy birthday or say anything to Lynn. Also, we're open to any kind of comments of what you guys would like to see on future shows that are coming up. There are a lot of social issues that are going on in our country, and we want to talk about them. So we're here to talk about the real issues with real discussions. And today we're going to be talking about foster care, which is near and dear to the three of our hearts. And I'm going to say a little bit about our guest here. I have two phenomenal guests that are just beautiful people in my life. My older brother, Nathan. Say hello, Nathan.
Hello, everybody.
And his lovely wife, Randy.
Good morning.
And we're here to talk about foster care with their obedience to the Lord. And I have been impressed over the last couple of years just watching you guys get your hands dirty, do what the Lord asks you to do, and just kind of following that as a testimony of God opening one door to the next door to the next door that, leads you different places. I'm going to tell a couple of stories that come to mind. One, you guys already have a couple of kids that are older, and you guys, it was the middle of winter. I know there was snow on the ground. I know it was frigid cold, and you guys saw a need. You could have just, called the police and let them deal with it. They may have dealt with it. They may not have dealt with it. But no, like the Lord told you to help someone that was in need. And you guys had pulled up, the kids were in the car, and you saw that someone was jumping fences, and they were nude. And it was a female, and she was in trouble.
She just had a T-shirt, just like a men's shirt on,
And so you guys called the law, got it involved, and then you knew you guys were going to lose where she was. And so you started jumping fences after her to stay up with her. And I remember when the police came, they were not really that interested in helping her. And you said what to them?
I said, she's in trouble. I said, she is terrified. And I said, I think she's a victim of some kind of assault, and you guys need to go track her down. It's freezing cold. She has no pants on, no shoes. She is obviously terrified. Looks like she'd been assaulted. And I told them, I said, if we did our part to get you guys here, you guys need to go track her down and get her some help.
And I remember you said, what if it was your sister?
Yeah.
What if it was your daughter?
Yeah,
you would want them to do something. And so you were advocating for this woman. And
we did get to talk to her because we tried to stop and help her. And, I had the kids turn their head around. I took my sweater off, tied it around her waist. And for a moment, she considered getting in the car and letting us take her somewhere. But then she got panicky about, cops coming. And so she just kind of started hopping fences at that point.
But full circle, she went on. We didn't know what happened. And then
we were at church on a Sunday morning, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this young lady that's in a program there at the church, and I'm like, that has to be her. And I go get Randy, and I'm like, you remember the girl that you gave your sweater to? I was like, that's her. She's here on a Sunday morning, sober, smiling, worshiping Jesus. And Randy went and talked to her, and then I'll let Randy kind of share about that.
This part was really cool. I didn't know her name. We didn't even ask her name that day, but I don't know why, but this name came to my mind, and the name Janine came to my mind. And so I just prayed for Janine, as if that was her name. And when I met her that day at the church, she said, "Oh, "You're the one that gave me the sweater." And she started crying. And I said, "I have to know what your name is." And she said, "It's Janice." And, you know, the Lord didn't give me her whole name, but it was pretty close. So that was really cool. But it was awesome to be able to see her, you know, in a different place in her life, in a more healthy spot.
Well, ministry can be really messy, but we are hands-on, and if we want to see really a move of revival and a move of God, we've got to be hands-on. There was another time last year, about a year ago, that you guys really had it on your heart to find someone and be a blessing to them. You went out to eat, it was close to Thanksgiving time, and you guys had made a meal for someone intentional that you knew you were going to end up meeting someone. And on that story, you guys were driving around. Nathan, tell us that story.
So we went and had a nice dinner, and we had a lot of good food left over: fried chicken, mashed potatoes, rolls. And I just looked at her, and I just felt like God was telling me to go find somebody, give them this food, and pray for them. That's what I felt like the Lord was asking us to do. So it was late at night. We were driving around, and everybody...
It was raining.
It was raining. Everybody we walked up to, they're like, "Oh, we just had our Thanksgiving meal." And we were cruising around Commercial Street, and we had drove by this young couple, and I was like, boy, they look really out of place. We circled back around and got to talking to him, and the young man just stood up real quick and told me his name and said, "Hey, this is my girlfriend. She's pregnant with my twins. Can you give her a ride out to Billings?" And I'm not gonna lie. In my mind at that given time, I thought, man, it's 9:45 at night. That's going to take me 45 minutes to go that way, 45 minutes back. It's getting ready to storm. I'm tired. And I heard God gut check me so hard. And he said, "If not you, then who? If not you, then who?" So you know what? We grabbed those two youngsters up, got to love on them, got her where she needed to be, got them plugged in. We're still mentoring them in their lives. And, you know, their babies were able to be born in a hospital and have a home to go to, and we're still just watching what God's doing in their lives. But yeah, I never heard the voice of God so clear as I did that night, where he said, "If not you, then him."
Well, I think that is a great transition to talk about foster care, because if not you, then who? You know, that applies to everyone. And Randy's going to open us up with a scripture that she has, just talking about, you know, the heart of the Lord and having a heart for the things that the Lord does.
Dawn actually was a big part, an integral part of us continuing to open our hearts towards children. We'd already had 3, 2 adopted, 1 bio of our own. But she had a distant family member who had a situation, and so we stepped in and tried to help in that scenario. And that really opened our heart up quite a bit and helped us, you know, because we had to ask ourselves the question, do we really want to take on more youngsters when our kids are almost fully grown? And so we had some discussions about that, about, you know, go to the beach or raise more kids. And we decided that we felt God was calling us in that direction. You know, we'd worked a lot with parents that were addicted and trying to help them, but God started to soften our hearts about the children. And we both absolutely love children. And the scripture that has come to my heart time and time again over the years, you know, we can go to church and we can be Christians, you know, but it's in the day-to-day. It's the getting messy every single day. And God's heart, you know, is religion that is, this is James 1:27, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to constantly work alongside the orphans and widows in their affliction, despite any cost, and keep oneself unstained from the world. And I think that scripture is, it says it best about who Jesus was and what he wants us to be in his place today and reaching out to the world. Is we can't just go to church and write a tithes check. It's more on the day-to-day living, and what are you doing to affect people's lives the way that Jesus did when he walked on the earth. You know, people want to come to God and they want what Jesus has for them, you know, but before he ever did anything for them, he always touched a physical need first. You know, he always went out and he touched their affliction. He touched their their body. He healed them. He fed them. He found some way to reach out to their physical needs, their earthly needs. And so foster care is an amazing way to do that. I definitely feel like it's near and dear to God's heart, because you are living a selfless, sacrificial love for those children that you did not bring into the world. You did not, we were talking yesterday that when you have children and you raise them from babies or a very young age, you get to imprint on them the way that you feel God's leading you to do. Good, bad, or indifferent, you get to do that. In foster care, it's not that way. You have to parent in reverse first. You have to go backwards and help that child to rewrite over some of the heart wounds. You have to help them find the places in their heart where they have negative beliefs about themselves. Maybe negative beliefs about the police. Maybe negative beliefs about what a dad looks like. And Nathan, you might jump in here and talk about what you've seen from a father's heart and how you affect the children that we're raising right now.
Yeah, it's been a journey for me. I mean, I love having the littles around, and I think that in the beginning when we got involved, I got a lot of training, and while I'm getting this training, I'm like, this is a crazy amount of training. They're teaching me all this stuff, and like until I got a little that had trauma and had been hurt by the world and circumstances, it wasn't until I started to see those behaviors coming out that I'm like, wow, I'm glad that I learned this, and I don't even know. I just know surface level of what I need to know, and I'm continually trying to learn more so that I can help them, grow. But as a father, first of all, I know that I had my heart kind of guarded, because it's like, oh, these kids are so sweet, and they're lifting their hands to me and they're looking to me, and I just I kept praying, and I made the decision that no matter what happens in foster care, any child or person that comes into my life, I'm going to love them 100% with everything that I got. I'm going to be there for them, and I'm going to love them with God's love. I'm going to love them unconditionally, no matter whether they get to be a permanent part of my life or whether it's a temporary season. And since I've started to do that, I have really noticed that with my kids specifically, I can play with them, and that goes so far, and I can be the fun dad. But when it gets down to the nitty gritty, and it's time to go to bed, when I sit down there and I take the time to get down on my knees and get down on their eye level and scratch their back and pray for them and really meet whatever, it doesn't matter if I have to go get them 5 drinks or fix the cover 6 times or get the night light just right. I have noticed that when I'm fully engaged with them and loving them 100% with everything I got, it's the difference maker. It is the difference maker in these kids' life, and I just feel God telling me that that's the Father's love. He's the difference maker in our life. When we reach up to Him and we're open to Him, He loves us back full circle. So it's been an amazing transformation even for me. I've learned a lot, and it's broke down some walls inside of my heart that I didn't know that I had, and I'm just full throttle loving these kids moving forward. A
lot of people will say, I've even had family members say, how can you do this? Like, how can you take kids in that you might have to give up? And, I can't speak for Nathan, but I know my heart, and we've talked about this, is I feel like if the children that come through our home didn't know God, and the little piece of life that we can give them is a relationship with God, and they leave with that, then we have done our job. No matter if they're with us 6 days, 6 months, 6 years, or forever, it's making an impact on their life and giving them the tools and the coping skills and working through, we see this every day. We work through traumas with the kiddos, and it's not cute. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It's very emotional for us. We spend ourselves emotionally on a daily basis, not once a month, daily. Daily we're spending ourselves for helping them to work through the trauma. And that brings me to another thing I know for myself. I've been working for years to try to work through trauma myself, and you know what you've been through, and you pray and you read books and you go through therapy and this, that, and the other. But it wasn't until I saw myself through one of our children, and I was able to see myself at that age went through similar circumstances. Was I able to look at myself with different eyes? And, God's really, really healed my heart in ways that I don't think I could have ever gotten through without seeing that in another child, to say, wow, that child really is innocent. That child really didn't have any reason to feel guilty about what's happened to them. And I know for me, that's helped me to find places of forgiveness that I couldn't before. And we talked about that with Nathan, with one of our little boy. He's got all the energy in the world, and Nathan is sometimes says, "Oh my goodness, this is tough," and then he's talked about how God's helped him to see himself as well. So parenting with a trauma-informed education is really important. We never stop educating. We're constantly reading and learning and growing, and reaching out to other foster parents who have done it before us, and trying to learn how to go back and parent in reverse. And what I mean by that is we have to go, a lot of times the kids will have unhealthy thoughts about themselves, and it really has nothing to do with them. They were not responsible for being brought into care whatsoever. But a lot of times these kids have a false belief that they were the reason, they were the cause. And that's a heavy burden for those kids to carry. And we have to help them rewrite those beliefs that they are worth more than what they feel. And I mean, I could go on and on about that part, about having to go back and help them to learn. Maybe if the kids experience domestic violence or unhealthy addictive type behaviors by parents, these kids also come with those issues, maybe on a much lower scale, but they have already developed this addictive type personality. They've already developed the issues that will later grow into kids that are going to follow the same footsteps of violence and addiction and all the things. And so we've had to go back and help these kids, and sometimes it's through books. We'll read books to them and talk about those things. Sometimes it's just pulling the Bible out and saying, look, you've got to treat others like you want to be treated, and we teach them the golden rule and all the things that the good book has to teach. And you'd be amazed at how hungry the kids are. And you want to talk about them developing their own prayer life?
Watching them do their own prayer life and the way they worship Jesus. But what I want to circle back to with what she's talking about is that I think that as a society, one thing that we have kind of gotten away from is discipline. We've gotten away from God's discipline and what that means. And I think that just as a nation, as a country, parents have gotten lazy, and they're relying on the internet and Netflix and Hulu and to raise their kids. And I mean, come on, folks, if we don't make a difference in the children now, what hope do we have for this whole next generation? But the greatest calling is to be a parent, to be a father, be a mother, be a parent, and don't be lazy. Discipline is taking the time to teach behavioral modification and changes right there in the moment when it happens. Not just go to your room. You got to take the time and you got to teach. And if you don't know how to teach, you need to get some help. You need to refer back to the scripture. You need to get a book that'll teach you. That's something that's heavy on my heart, and that I've learned a lot with this, is that I probably used to be one of those parents that wanted to take the easier approach to just, go do this or go that. But it takes discipline yourself to give discipline and to know what I mean by discipline, which is loving and teaching in those moments. Not just telling your kid to go do this or go do that, but taking time to teach and explain. And
guiding them, like the way that we both parent is, I use the analogy of a bowling alley, and you've got the bumper rails that come up, and in between those bumper rails, it's up to you how wide or how narrow those bumper rails need to be for each child. But in that lane, they're allowed to make mistakes, and you help guide them. You don't force them or control them, but you give them boundary line and say within these boundaries you can make decisions for yourself, and you help guide them to get to the end of that. And over time you get to move those bumper rails out until finally when they're grown you get to drop those and they're on their own and it's their turn. And that's kind of the approach, and in foster care there is absolutely no physical discipline whatsoever, and that's very important. And so discipline in using what Nathan's talking about is it's harder because you do have to it's constant teaching and guiding and teaching them why it's important. I know my older three, they very much value the way that we taught them because they know why they're doing what they're doing. They know why they don't want to make bad choices because we've taught them to make those good decisions as they've grown at that level.
Well, you guys have such a heart for kids, and there is such a need. I mean, why we're talking about foster care as a real issue is because it's a growing issue. We are getting more kids in foster care every day, not less, because we have a growing epidemic going on of addiction and different things that are going on. I got some statistics here that there's around 424,000 kids any given day in the U.S. that are in foster care, and that there are over 13,000 here within the state of Missouri. We need more people advocating for children. We need more people to get involved in foster care. And I know they have to have the right heart for it, and you guys are, really explaining all the details that are going on with it. But what would you say to someone who's just thinking about it? They're not ready to, take the leap of becoming a foster parent yet, but maybe they want to get involved and just kind of put their toe in the water. What would you say on getting started?
I would encourage them to go ahead and reach out to the different organizations, and I would encourage them to go ahead and start the training because it will give them, an idea of what it really is going to be like. They could become a CASA worker. So anybody who doesn't know what a CASA worker is, that's a court-appointed special advocate. And what they do is they get assigned a child, and they come to the meetings. They come and they meet the child at the house. They are there specifically to report to the team and to the judge their opinion about what they see.
They're the child's voice to the court.
Child's voice, kind of an independent voice. You could get to be a CASA worker. You could become a respite provider. So, for example, if a respite provider, if Randy and I were going to go out of town for a weekend and we had somebody that we knew and trusted that had their certification, they could watch our kids for a weekend, which we haven't ever even done that since we've had the littles because I'm a little protective of them and I want to make sure that they're good and healthy. But that's what I would encourage is that they just reach out and start making those steps to go forward because
and respite care is on their terms. So if I became a respite care person, it would be when I'm available and that I'm able to help. So even if that's one weekend a year or every weekend, it would just
half a day, whatever you were capable and willing to do.
And I know for you guys went through the training before you ever had a kid in your home. You were already had all the groundwork laid. You had already prepared a room that was sitting empty. You were doing everything God was telling you to do.
See, that was even a God story because the reason why that room was ready was because God had led us to a baby that was in a car.
So we were sitting there on a cold night. I think it was closer to 9 o'clock at night, and a buddy reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I got a situation. Can you help?" And I was like, "Yeah, give him a call." So I get a call, and this young couple, they're telling us they're homeless. It's cold. They got, was she 18 months at the time?
I think so.
Or 16 months. Anyway, so Randy and I, we go meet him at Taco Bell, and we're sitting here, and I'm looking at this guy. He's not the dad of this baby, and he's telling me, he's like, "I'm violent. I'm not good for her. I'm not good for this baby." Randy and I looked at the mom, and I'm like, "Well, if you and the baby want to come to our house, you can." I looked at that guy and said, I can't bring you into my home." And we prayed for him, and I think we bought him some food, and then we left and kind of stayed in touch with him. And
he decided he changed his mind real quick about her coming with us since he couldn't come.
Yeah, and
but we gave him our number.
Yeah, and about 3 days later, we had come in from a worship service on a Saturday night, and they both started reaching out to us. They had a violent situation, and the mom, we show up, the cops are there, and she gives us the baby. She just gives us the 18-month-old. We tell her where we live. She's like, I got to get my stuff taken care of. So we take that little baby home. We got her to sleep pretty quick. You know, I mean, babies know. They know. Babies know if you got a good spirit. They know if you're a loving person. They will. If you have a loving, kind spirit, then babies are going to attach to you, and they're going to open up anyway. So we let the mom and the baby stay with us for, I don't know.
It was about 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks, and ended up the baby's dad had been, the mom had been keeping him from her, but we got them reunited, and the mom's doing good. The baby got back with the dad, and so basically that whole little family was reunited, basically just because we were obedient and willing to get our hands dirty and bring a stranger into our house and watch a little baby and encourage them, and then reach out, find the dad, and say, listen, this is what's going on.
Mom wasn't happy with me that I reached out to her family. She was very resistant and unhappy about that, and she packed up her stuff really quick, was going to leave with the baby, and I just pleaded with her, and I said, just please call the dad or your mom. And she left there, you know, and when I told her I'd reached out to her family, she was not happy with me. But she did. She went and reached out to the dad. The dad came and picked up the baby. He came back around, let us say bye, and we still get videos and pictures from them, and they're all doing good. All of them are doing great, and it's amazing to see that family reunited, and we were just a small part of that, and that definitely helped us open our heart for that need, you know, and
well, I've heard you guys say before, and I love it from a ministry standpoint, that everything you have is the Lord's.
Yep.
The hardwood floors, the nice roof over the head, the air conditioning, the heat. And so when God prompts you guys to intervene and advocate for a kid or a person, that is what you guys do. And it has led you down now that you guys have 3 foster kids under the age of 7 in your home. I know you guys will probably bring on more later. Like, you're always looking to how can we get more room, and, you know, how can we be able to accommodate more kids.
There's a funny story there. So, and just recently, Nathan and I just were feeling like God was wanting us to do more, and we just talked about it. Just, you know, maybe we get a bigger house, and that way we can take on more kids. And I mean,
back in the fall, in September.
It was like November, December. We were talking about it, but
it was September, because we were looking at how we could build an addition on
right.
our house and make it work so that we could.
I know, but closer to Christmas, we started talking about it again.
No, because we bought it. We bought it around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So anyway, whatever the time frame was, same thing happened. Is basically driving down the road, I felt God nudge me, and I turned my head and I said, "Hey, babe, you need to go buy that house." And he didn't even look at it. You know, he just kept driving. Next thing you know, he calls me a week later. He said, "You know that house?" "Yeah." "Well, I bought it. I hope you like it." So we ended up having to remodel it, and Olympic style remodel in about 90 days. And in the middle of that, God brought us a couple of more kiddos that were in need. And I mean, we sit here today. I mean, that was Olympic style schedule, and it was crazy, but you know, we opened our heart and said yes, and God said, "Okay, here you go," and he made it happen. So if you'll be obedient to God, he will. You don't have to say, "Well, I don't have a big enough house. I don't have the things that I need to be able to help someone else." If you say yes, I promise you, he will turn those fish, you know, those 2 fish, into a bag full of them.
He will open the doors faster than you can walk through them.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was at you guys' house after church, and the kids were all wanting to show me their rooms, and the little boy runs down to his room, and he's like, "Look at my room." And I asked him, "Have you ever had your own room?" And he said, "No, this is the first time I've had my own room." And I just made out about his room being so awesome, and he knew it was so awesome, and he has these cool toys and all of that. And this Easter, he just blew my heart wide open when I said, you know, "Did you have a good Easter?" You know, sometimes we don't appreciate the little things that we have in our families that we can share with other people. And to see him out getting the Easter eggs and doing the hunt and having the food and hanging out with family, and I asked him, "Did you have a good Easter?" And he just lit up with the biggest smile and said, "It was the best Easter ever." And you just knew that it was. And if people could see how much love these kids bring to families, it would make all the work worth it. Because you guys have really had to go through the trainings and all of that. And I know we're running out of time, and I want to ask Randy some kind of pointed questions here about foster care. But you guys are very exceptional with how you guys advocate for kids. I'm sure not all foster parents advocate like you guys do. I think you keep all the government workers on their toes because you are
Definitely
working to get these kids where they need to go. You have seen different counties, how that they interact with foster care. We have some counties that have it more together. We have some counties that are super taxed and are just, kind of struggling to do what they need to do. What do you guys see, talking to Lynn, who's on vacation, but will see this show, and other people who can make change within the Missouri foster care system? What would you say needs to happen in changing and making it for the better?
I could talk for the whole day about it. First of all, we just want to thank the United States, the state of Missouri, for filling the need, and it is a tireless job. It is a thankless job. I'm sure the workers don't make near as much money. They work endless hours shuffling kids and pushing paperwork and walking through the heartache with families. But I will say that some of the things that systemically need to change, not only here, Greene County and the bordering counties, the state, and really United States in general, is some of the laws affecting the children. So some of the laws, and I don't have the list of the specific laws, you can look those up, but the state of Missouri gives 12 to 15 months for parents to kind of get their things in order and work that case plan to get their kids back. And it's vital, if any parents are out there listening that are working through the system, that you start immediately on that case plan. You don't wait. And we have seen devastating results from parents who have waited to engage the system late. And what I mean by late is they wait 6 months, they wait 12 months, they wait to the end of 2-year period when the kids have been in care a very long time. And one of the laws that I would really like to see changed is regarding visitation. And visits with the kids and the parents are really healthy and really good. But what's difficult is if the parents have waited an extended amount of time and they come back into the picture and the state has already basically decided the kids aren't going home because they've waited too long. Those kids start to redevelop a relationship with those parents, and they have a more healthy relationship towards the end, and parents end up losing their rights because they waited too long. It is devastating on all sides for those parents, for the kids, for us, as foster parents seeing that. The other thing I would say is, as foster parents, we have to stay really focused on the goal of that case. So if the goal is reunification, we've got to support that goal with everything we have and help the kids walk through that. But if it's adoption, the focus is on the children and not the parents, and we have to stay focused on that. And I would say that different counties, as far as protocols and such, there's some counties that are so overloaded that as a foster parent, you do have to advocate stronger for those kids to see them get out of the system as quickly as possible, whether that's reunification or adoption. So that's, I've told our caseworkers, I know I'm probably not like most foster parents because I'm a fierce advocator, and the reason why is because these children are worth it. We can't just let them be suspended in the system for an indefinite amount of time.
They're innocent little children, and they should not be a victim to this system that I personally just think is broken across the board. The justice system and foster care is broken, and it doesn't work. Show me. I won't go off on a tangent on that, but these little children do not need to be innocent victims caught up in a system that doesn't have enough workers to meet the need, doesn't have the funds, doesn't have
the system
resources
itself
that
is
they
good.
need.
It's just so overwhelmed and so overloaded, and that's why we would plead for more people to get involved, is so that there can be more. There's a scripture that I want to point out. It says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." Jesus said these words after seeing crowds of people in need of healing and salvation, Matthew 9:38. And so just encourage, ask the Lord of the harvest therefore to send out workers in his field. So not only for his church, but also in foster care, the need is so great, and we would encourage people to get involved.
Well, I am just so proud to say that you guys are family, and I love you guys so much, love your heart, love everything that you're doing. And, you know, if you guys want to say something about the Blackard Company, I would love to hear you guys advocate to bring in people. If you're looking for a job, these are the people that I would call. They have a lot of work coming up. They really care for their employees. They take care of them. They advocate for them. And what's your phone number if someone's looking for a job that they can call and talk to you guys?
417-708-7500.
Okay, great. If anybody has anything that they want to see on upcoming shows, you can either drop it in the comments below of things that you want to hear Lynn and I talk about that's a social issue, or you could email me at mycreativeworkhorse@gmail.com. And yeah.
I'd like to add one more thing. We have a worship experience that we go to every Saturday night. It's downtown Springfield, across from Ernie Biggs, over a little shop called Suddenly's. Starts at 8 o'clock. We'd love to have you guys come out and worship with us, and it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and Randy, you lead worship there every once in a while. You guys
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday. So you guys can come see them there, and it's non-denominational. It's just people getting together and worshiping the Lord and fellowshipping. So, and that's called the Upper Room.
The Upper Room, yes.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and we will see you next week. Lynn Morris will be back, and we'll be talking about another issue, so stay tuned. Be the change. Thank you all.
Under God, not tyranny. That's what it means to really dream. 1, 2, 3. Can I get a